to another episode of the Event Tech Snap, powered by Snapside. So thanks a lot, Snapside, for capturing this nice short talk that I have with Sean now. And this is a special edition because we talk about Sean's experience at South by Southwest. I think you just came back a few days ago. So everything is very recent in your head, I hope. And you can tell everybody about your experience at this event, festival, conference. Well, let's see how we call this, gathering. So thanks everybody for joining. If you have any questions throughout our chat, put it in the comments and we will cover the questions, of course. We are monitoring that. And yeah, it's going to be like a 10, 15, 20-minute chat, depending on how many questions we have. So thanks for taking your time, Sean, and telling us about South by Southwest. So my first question is for people that don't know it, that have never heard about it, for example, like, what is it? What is South by Southwest?
Yeah, well, I think so. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, no matter where you're calling from. I think South by Southwest is starting as a music festival, my understanding, and then it's starting to become an art festival, and
Oh,
then become a movie festival.
oh,
And then I think it's really up to the last decade or so, it become an interactive media conferences, and then the business conference start showing up. I think right now, if you're asking about what is South by Southwest, I think is which is a very unique event because it means a lot of different things for different people, depending on who you talk to.
what does it
Uh,
mean to you?
I think for me, it's so as an event professional, South by Southwest is the events to get new ideas and to experience what type of experience of other professionals are able to create it. Because I think what unique about South by Southwest is beside their typical and their core programming. Uh, the satellite events or the event that is around South by Southwest is even bigger in some way. And
What is
a
it?
lot of the
So,
company, a lot of the agency, a lot of the different organization, they were using the opportunity when South by Southwest is happening and do their own things. And so
ah,
it's that's kind of why it make this event is such a unique event. And for example, I was getting invited in to join a WhatsApp group. So it basically it's everyone sharing what's going on during the day. And then there's someone actually create a Google sheet to track all the events that is happening. None of those events are actually in the event app. None of
oh,
those events are actually on the official program, but there's thousands of them.
oh, wow. So there is kind of a main event in the conference center, or where's the main event or the conference
So that's
happening?
what makes this event so interesting because I will actually say even for the main event, they are already multi-venue. So if for the main event, they are using the convention center. They are using, I think, at least three major convention hotel around.
Mm,
And they using a lot of the other unique venue or even public space that Austin has offered. And that is just main event alone.
okay, so it takes over
It
the
is
whole
a
city.
250,000 people's event, so
Yeah, this is so crazy. Like, didn't you feel a bit like overwhelmed, like with
yeah,
everything,
it's very overwhelming.
right? I can imagine. So, how did you prepare for it?
I
If
didn't,
some of the
so I was overwhelmed. I think it's hard because that's kind of what I also talked to a few people and I put that in my post last week. Is I think being a first timer for South by Southwest is meant to be overwhelmed, and
Mm,
especially if you are a first timer who are not going with a group.
mhm.
That if you ask me, am I recommend or people to attend South by Southwest even individually? I would say if you're in the event space, like 100%, if you're able to make it to Austin during March, I think it's a great experience. You're gonna see a lot, but at the same time, you're going to get lost, like literally, like constantly. because there are just so many things going on. But I think like all the other major event, especially, I'm coming from a conference space, I think it's actually a very similar experience for any conference who the first day you're gonna get overwhelmed and confused all the times. But throughout the progress, you're gonna learn more. You're gonna understand what's going on more, and eventually you're gonna find your tribe. And I think that is kind of what happened for South by. And I think that is another thing that keep a lot of people keep coming back. Like this is my first time, and I do see a lot of people who constantly coming back to South by because they're starting to build their community within with South by.
Okay, yeah, so that probably helps, no, to have like a little bit of a micro community, have your own groups, like messenger groups, appointments, for evening activities. I can imagine, but maybe that's also on the other hand, it's a nice thing to just go with the flow and have like these serendipitous conversations, the really unplanned encounters, no, like at this huge event, if you just go and see who you
Yeah, and I
meet.
think that has become one of this. I will say is the most value thing for South by is the serendipity encounter with people because again. To recognize the fact that it is a very big thousands of people's events, that you're going to meet people you don't know, right? That's number one. But the second thing for South by is come down to what we talked about earlier is the event mean different things for different people because they are coming from different backgrounds, right? There is the film industry people, there is media, there is business, there's technology, there's enterprise, there's government. There's just like everyone coming from different background in some way. And so it's very likely you are going to interact with people you probably would never met. If you just go to your professional encounter, like so for us, for example, we go into IMAX, or we go into other industry events, or if you are engineering, you go into IEEE conference, right? It's very specific, and you go. That is your tribe. Right, you're gonna meet some people you don't know, but they are the same.
Yeah.
But for South by is you are going to meet people that you really don't know, and that is what usually made the conversation very fascinating because it's sharing the experience, was sharing the viewpoint from different parts, which also made me a little wonder. Like, so then what's the point for the session? Because the session, I mean, don't get me wrong, like all the sessions are really, most of them are very insightful and very good, but it's something that's just bothered me a little bit just with, because they have such a massive program. The program is massive, again, because of the volume of the attendee, right? But if everyone is talking about the value is on the street and like when you line up, then I'm curious, then what are the real value for some of those sessions?
Yeah. So, like, talking about like meeting people, like, was there any conversation that you had with somebody that really stood out that you still remember?
Yeah, like I had quite a few. And they're all happening in such a weird occasion. Like I met a Brazil, like a consultant for São Paulo in Brazil, and his job is to help business establish into Brazil. We met when we are both lining up to go into the session when the lineup is like 2 hour long. And we just we eventually never get into the session because the lineup is too long. But the conversation itself was very interesting and very insightful, and I think we both very impressed of what each others are doing.
Wow. I read that they have like in the app you can see how many people are in the session and if there is still space. No, did it work or it? Oh.
I mean, it worked. So it worked when there are not much people. Because I went earlier. First, I went to the South by Southwest education conference, and So for that, I just want to publicly share my appreciation and kudos to Brandeis for the invite. So it's Brandeis at the first activation at South by 𝐶𝐸𝐶𝑜𝑚, and so at the education conference. So I first went to the education conference. That is kind of the before the main South by event. I would say for that, the room control monitor was actually fairly accurate. You can actually see through the app by seeing the signal of if it's full, if it's not. It's fairly accurate. But the way, I don't know if this is correct. Again, this is just me making observation. I think the way they update the information is actually very manual. It's based on the human volunteer at the door.
They don't
The
scan.
volunteer need to basically send update or something, so the app will be updated. So this is not gonna work. So this is just clearly not working when the people are 100 times more.
No. Yeah.
The education. So the app just never that portion unfortunately just never really effective.
Okay. What, like, so brain dates, like you mentioned brain dates. So like, did they have like a brain date lounge and it was connected to the app and you can make your own brain dates?
Yep, so they do. So they bring their Brain Day launch into the education conference show floor, which I think is probably one of the real highlight of the education conference, in my opinion. Just because, again, this is come down to there are two different events, right? So they have the education conference and they have the main South by conference. It's a very different audience. For the education conference, they are all educators. So they are teachers, they are policymakers, they're everything related to education, right? So the conference itself is actually surprisingly very traditional, but at the same time, you also shouldn't be surprised. The session is traditional, the format is traditional, the trade show floor is pipe and drape. The only, I would say, interesting part is actually the Brain Day Lounge, which is also, not surprisingly, they are the one who are always bustling on the floor.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So how long is the conference?
I don't know. I think it's still going on.
But it's before. Isn't it before the actual South by Southwest, the conference?
I think since that's kind of come down to like, what are you asking, right? If you're asking about South by Southwest, I would say it's basically the whole March. But if you're asking about education conference, it's the first week. If you're asking about the business and media conference, it's the second week. And then if you're asking the music festival, I think it's the week after. And then the movie filming festival, I think, is just throughout over 2 weeks.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
It's a combination of a lot of different things. Oh, but someone said conference is over. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I think it's Harris who said that. Thanks, Harris. Okay, conference is over. Okay. So we talked about the big amount of sessions, 250,000 attendees or something. It's sometimes a bit overwhelming meeting everybody, but it's also about the serendipitous encounters and all of that. Like on my live streams, we often talk about AI. So Julius just published a video of his experience at South by Southwest, and he called it AI hype. So what was your impression about AI and how was it used at the gathering? I'm not calling it event anymore.
Well, first of all, I need to acknowledge that I was only there for the first 2 days of the South by Southwest main program. And so I keep being told the conference haven't started yet when I left. A lot of the things is only happening after, so I was there basically catch the Friday and Saturday portion of the first 2 days. But a lot of the activation, a lot of the content is only coming out on Sunday or even Monday. And so think I'm not surprised that that AI have been dominate on all different form of conversations. Experience-wise, I personally didn't experience much, but it's might also because I just didn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, there is so much. You can, and if you're
And
only
I do
there.
want to like point out to the chat. I think Chris say it actually really nicely. It was a tech rap to approach to a conference.
Yeah. Yeah, however, it is now a butt in the shell of its formal itself. That's true. Thanks, Chris. I mean, there is only so much you can see, right? Especially if you only take like 2 days out of the whole week, whenever it's going on, a whole March, or however you want to define it, and whatever your purpose is of going, of course. But in general, like you would say, it would be a nice event to attend for event professionals, like more for like corporate event planners, or would you say it's also worthwhile for association meeting planners to go?
Well, I think it definitely are, and I think it doesn't matter what background or events you are planning. I think you are going to be able to get something out of it. I think that the important thing will be go with some level of objective. So you go in with, oh, I really want to see this, I really want to experience that, but at the same time leave. Leave with the mindset of very open
Yeah,
to experience things that has come to your way. I
I
think
can
that would be the better approach.
yeah,
To recognize you're going to be overwhelmed, but at the same time also welcome and be curious with all the things that
yeah,
come up.
yeah. No, that's good. Great. Okay. Thanks, Sean, for this very quick and nice update of your time at South by Southwest. Last comment from Chris says it is a great example of how the original intent was homogenized by heavy monetization. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did see when I saw Julio's video just now. I saw lots of brands everywhere, right? And doing
Yeah,
all
and
the
then, like I think
activations.
that is the interesting one because it's not even the brand. What I think is particularly interesting to me is the representation from a country.
Okay.
So
Ah.
it have become, and I understand it's not the first year. It have growing become uh, uh, an event that a lot of the country will heavily invest and be present. So, for example, for this year, the part I saw already is the Dubai Future of Museum activation was the hype of actually the whole show. Everyone wants to see it. I never able to see it because the lineup just way too long. I think if you watch Julia's a video, you can see a good portion of that. But also, Sao Paulo had a very robust activation right outside the convention center. It's full on branding in Brazil, but also at the same time, tons of content in there and really demonstrate the startup scenes in Brazil. Oh, sorry, specifically Sao Paulo. There's a UK house, there's a French house, there's a German house. That
Mm.
all, and then there's more. That they are all showcasing, not only showcasing, but they become a meeting hub to their attendee. Right? So this is something like I think, um, even something I think from an international meeting perspective, people can take notes about it, right? When we talk about international meeting, one unique part of it is the diverse of the attendance coming from, right? It's always coming from, you always have like a percentage of people coming from this country, from that country, and what South by Southwest are able to position themselves is to create enough reason for all those country or destination to recognize this,
Yep.
and then supporting their citizens to be at the event, right? So, for example, when UK, so what happened in UK House, for example, is a collaboration with the film industry, with the tech industry. And they have the UK House almost as a hub. So as anyone from UK, whether you attend you're alone or you attend as a company, you always can just meet at the UK house. You don't need to meet at the convention center or at the coffee shop. You meet at the UK house,
Yeah.
and they have entertainment, networking opportunity in the evening, and tons of content throughout the day.
Mm,
That is smartly curated in a way that promote UK, but also create opportunity for investment, for
yeah.
collaboration, or for project.
Yeah. Where are these destination houses?
They are all throughout the city. So, like for example,
Mm.
UK house, they rent out an empty event space, I believe. German
Um,
house rent out a speakeasy bar.
okay.
The Dubai, they build their own things from on a parking lot, right? So
Oh,
there's a
wow.
lot of those. It's Dubai. Come on, what do you think? But all those things is it's something that you like. Obviously, they are in a way that is very. Um, the fact that South by have become such a monetization events, like what Chris pointed out, there's a lot of capital involved. So there's a lot of this thing that it can happen because of the capital, right? But I think it doesn't really devalue the concept of it. Is the country look seeing South by South as a massive international gathering, that they see the value of be presence and supporting not only their attendance but also in some way some tourism promotional
Yeah.
purpose. I
Yeah.
think it's a very interesting move, and I think it's what every international association organization should take notes of it.
Yeah. I agree. It is a very special gathering and a special format. And Harris was just mentioning in the chat, it's a very long comment, so we can't show it all here, but you can read it all there. That they have also they changed the dates for next year to make it like a 7 day conference festival instead of 9, and that there is a 1 day overlap of the education conference and then the actual festival, instead of now where there's a gap in between apparently. So interesting also how it constantly evolves and changes. And I also read that there is a London edition now coming up in June. So that might be, interesting for the European people here as well, like to check that out. And I'm really curious how that, compares to the one in
Yeah, and
Austin.
I think not just London, right? I think there's another one in Sydney, in Australia, is planning, and I
Mm.
think there's a talk about one in Latin. I'm not sure
Okay.
which country. But so I think South by. I mean, for those of you who don't know, after this year, Austin Convention Center is going to be shut down and renovate
Hmm.
for a period of 4 years. The current construction scheduled to reopen in 2029. And so I think throughout this time is kind of what point out is South by is also going to be adjusting to this new reality, right? Although, like I just based on my very tiny experience, I don't feel it will be a big issue just because they're already very spread out
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
the city already. I mean, I think losing one anchor point where the registration and the
Yeah.
masses things goes is going to impacting them, but the fact that they are already a quite decentralized
Yeah.
program, I think the nature of the event is it's disruption, right? So looking forward to see how involved.
Yeah, and I mean it's not a surprise for them, right? So they probably already have plans where
Well, they
to
better.
have the registration now, or and where to have the education conference, or other things that took place in the venue. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
they already have their plans, so you can see next year where
Mhm.
they organize everything else. Um, Great. Okay, thanks, Sean. I think that gave us a very good overview of what it was. I think it's still something that you need to experience yourself to really kind of understand. Because for me, it just sounds massive, like an event in the whole city. And for lots of people, for lots of different people. But I do believe it could be interesting for event professionals to get creative ideas, to get inspirations for their own event, and just to see, what's possible and what these activations are doing, what they are doing in terms of technology, and so on. So thanks a lot, Sean, for taking the
Yeah,
time.
welcome.
and sharing.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, everyone who participated, especially I think both Chris and
Harris. Yes, perfect.
Harris, for
Thanks a
sharing
lot.
your thoughts. And Harris seems like a OG of Cloud Spice.
Thanks a lot, everybody. See you next time.